I've just watched Eternals, and I'm under review embargo until this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when The Eternals is the closing night film at the Rome Film Festival. That is an awards play. You got to be on the awards circuit, the festival circuit, if you want to be at all a viable awards contender. Although, do you? Obviously, I don't think Black Panther or Mad Max played at film festivals, did they? But I think they know this film has an uphill battle as an awards contender. And it is from an Oscar-winning filmmaker, though. Let him be at the Rome Film Festival. It's nice. But that's the reason that Disney has started press screenings and the premiere so early. The movie's 3 weeks out. But you know what we can talk about today? We can talk a little business. So we're going to focus on these categories. End credits and MCU speculation. No spoilers, don't worry, no spoilers. They didn't even show us the end credits, as I tweeted earlier today, but we're going to talk about that. That's fascinating. Potential box office, now that I've seen it, how I think it could potentially do. And also those awards chances. All right, so yes, as I tweeted hours ago, I was shocked that they just cut the film off after, when a movie, or particularly any, Disney does this in particular with their big blockbusters recently. They don't have any credits really at the beginning, and then they kind of have the credits at the end with some nice visuals, and then usually you cut to an end credit scene. But here, they just ended the movie. But anyway, it got us thinking. We're like, whoa, this must be big if you don't want it to leak. And I think right there, that is an incredible amount of business acumen. Because, 2 years ago, the Russo brothers wrote an open letter asking everyone not to spoil Avengers Endgame, which was brilliant marketing. It was phenomenal. And so this time, the MCU isn't even going to give you the chance to spoil it, or at least anyone who gets an early look at the film. Word is, by the way, there are 2 end credit scenes. A lot of this stuff is leaked already, but, I think, it's rough right now in Hollywood. Spoilers are at an all-time high. We've never seen spoilers like the likes are coming out for Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2. It's crazy. And Venom 2, that end credit scene was uploaded on YouTube before the film even hit most theaters. Now, that obviously didn't hurt Venom 2's opening weekend. It did phenomenal, better than the first film, even though it's in a pandemic. But still, Marvel obviously is paying attention. Now, why would they want to hide this end credit scene? Especially because there's a pretty strong rumor already out there as to what it is. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because I said no spoilers. And I haven't been able to get 100% confirmation that's indeed what it is, but everybody feels it's pretty much that's what it is. But basically, you have a new character introduced, played by a global sensation. And I'm sure that Marvel does not want a screen grab of that to leak. That would be a problem. Not just because, again, we're 3 weeks out, and I think they want that to be a big reveal, the visual of it, but because such a discussion would totally eclipse Eternals itself, because it's not Eternals related. You want people talking about the movie, thank you very much. So I can totally get this decision from Disney Marvel. Is this the new normal? That's, to me, what's very interesting. When Venom screened early for some critics, Venom 2, they didn't include that end credit scene, in fact. So we'll see when Marvel decides, will it be when this hits theaters opening night, or will they start to put it in front of some early screenings? But again, the same problem would arise. Once this picture gets out, it's all anyone's going to talk about. And so that would be, I think that would be problematic for Eternals, especially because of the type of movie it is, as we're about to discuss. So, but we'll see. It would make opening night a bigger deal if you couldn't see the end credit scene until then, if anybody couldn't see it. And also, it would highlight end credit scenes as a promotional tool rather than a part of the film itself, which is interesting to me. The film should be able to stand on its own without, it was bad that the best thing about Venom 2 was the end credit scene. So I think this is at the very least, it's very interesting this one time around. Some of you are convinced they're going to play it at the premiere tonight, but then why would they just wait a few hours for that to get out? It doesn't seem to make much sense. But we'll see, again, what happens. We're in new territory here. Now, as for the Eternals and the MCU overall, again, don't worry, as I promised you, there are no spoilers here. But this is important to our discussion. It's going to lead us into our box office speculation. The Eternals is quite an anomaly for the MCU, and that not only does it not feel like a MCU movie, it feels like you're an entirely different franchise from frame one, and it continues that way throughout. But except for the few references that you've already seen in the trailers, it's as if this movie doesn't take place in the MCU. You feel like you're in a totally different world. In fact, often while I was watching this film, I wondered to myself what the point of it was, especially in terms of the MCU larger picture, which is one of the core principles of the MCU's success, that each film is a building block. And yet here you have a movie that doesn't seem to factor in at all. That's fascinating to me. It's a bold move, boy. It could work, you know? Hey, as we've discussed before, one of the things that keeps the MCU so viable is that, like Madonna and Lady Gaga, it constantly reinvents itself. And Taylor Swift, to a degree, does that as well. This is something that happens quite a bit in music. And now the MCU, I think, has done it very, very successfully to date. But it still always has felt connected. This just felt like a totally different franchise. So since it doesn't feel like the MCU, I wonder if it will benefit from the same repeat viewing that MCU movies so famously have enjoyed in the past. And one of the things that adds to their high box office, like many of you will see something like Shang-Chi or Black Widow 6 to 8 times in a movie theater, in theaters. And I'm being conservative in that estimate. Some of you I know will go even more. I'm curious, down below, how often do you typically see a Marvel movie in theaters? Also, when fans do their rewatches, you know, I know, and some of you like once a year will rewatch all the MCU movies in order, which I think is fascinating and wonderful and a testament to how strong the MCU is. But how are you going to feel now that Eternals is in that shuffle? Are you going to do that? Are you going to watch it every time? Because I don't think it contributes all to that bigger story. Now, I personally enjoyed watching the film, but there's nothing that fires on all cylinders, in my opinion, like the bus scene in Shang-Chi. I would say the movie is resting at a 6 and never goes in above an 8. And you're talking to someone who feels that all blockbusters should go to an 11 at least once, preferably several times throughout the film. We'll talk about Chloe Zhao's directing in my review. It would be, to be frank with you, a bit of a chore for me to sit through this again. I mean, if somebody I knew wanted to go, I don't think I would watch it again by myself. But I would like to see the characters again, so I think that's very positive. So if Eternals doesn't feel like an MCU film, what does it feel like? I would say it feels like Justice League meets Avatar. And boy, this Justice League thing is incredible. The first fight scene reminded me so much of Justice League that I felt bad that Warner Brothers has been so slow that they allowed Marvel to now plant this flag. And in this film, one character is even referred to or compared to Batman. I'm not going to say which characters. And another is compared to Superman. They actually say Batman and Superman in this movie. I was shocked. It was so aggressive. I couldn't believe it. And one of the characters was, I thought the Superman comparison was very apt. I didn't really see the Batman one, but I thought it was funny, but also shocking. It's incredible that they did that. Now, as for Avatar, I find this similarity to be the most interesting because I've never understood Avatar's success. I don't understand why people like that movie so much, but they do. It is wildly popular and successful. So it's a mystery to many of us, but yet many people just adore it. So I wonder if Chloe Zhao has managed to capture that same element. And if she has, I think in that case, Eternals could do extremely well at the box office. It would be hard for me to determine that in advance because, again, I don't like Avatar, and I didn't get Avatar. But so it's hard for me to tell if she did a good comparable Marvel version of that. But I think there's a chance she did. To me, Eternals is like Screensaver the movie, or perhaps more accurately, National Geographic, now owned by Disney, and in some ways, Epcot Light. And perhaps those qualities are why even I, an Avatar hater, that's right, I don't just not get or like Avatar, I hate it. As I've told you before, I would have walked out of that movie if it hadn't been so crowded when I went to see it. I was in the 68th Street IMAX, and I couldn't get out because, it's so hard to maneuver in that theater. And I was like, I guess I'm watching the rest of this. And I recently rewatched it when I was on a flight, and I was like, let me check this out again. And I thought the first act was actually pretty good. I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe I just needed some distance from it. And then the second 2/3, I was like, it's awful. It's awful. It's awful. But again, some of you just absolutely love Avatar. And I do like the ride in Animal Kingdom. The good one, the good ride. So I still managed to like Eternals. I thought that at points it was quite beautiful. And I thought it was also, I would describe it as hypnotic. I did like seeing everyone use their powers quite a bit with some of the characters in particular. And I felt that the overall Eternals elements were quite stunning and serene, very elegant and otherworldly. I was like, oh, this is nice. This is nice. It was pleasant. I would describe it as pleasant. Now, the question is, can you have a pleasant blockbuster? We're about to find out. As for awards chances, well, Avatar, of course, did quite well there, too. But that's because, I know why Avatar did well at the Oscars. That's because it was a technological filmmaking breakthrough in many different areas. And it also had very strong messages about environmentalism and imperialism. And James Cameron made space Pocahontas. And Pocahontas is a very popular story. It was quite smart of him to do that. There's nothing like that here. There's no message whatsoever that I could discern. Maybe when they go around on their awards campaign, Chloe Zhao will point one out, but it's not discernible, at least to me in watching the movie. So I don't see it being a strong awards contender outside of the usual secondary categories for blockbusters, like production design, costume, visual effects, score, cinematography, those things. That's where I think it will probably be nominated. But I gotta say, in all those categories, I think Dune is superior. And I think I really liked Dune. That's interesting. These films come out a freaking 2 weeks apart. So I'll be very curious to see how they both perform. They are similar in many ways. Dune is the Warner Brothers version, and this is the Disney version. And I think when it comes to these kinds of stories, I think Warner Brothers just has a bit of an edge as a studio, and I think that's evident in the end products. But again, this was very pleasant. This was very serene. This was like hanging out at the low end of the pool and people watching. That's pretty nice. So I think that I see potential nominations in secondary categories for this film, but I think that wins are probably unlikely. With, the asterisks that this could end up being an Avatar. I really don't see it as an Avatar awards-wise, but maybe box office-wise. Maybe. So those are my initial business-oriented thoughts about Eternals, having just seen it. And I'm very excited to share my non-spoiler review with you on this Sunday, October 24th, at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the embargo lifts. So share your own thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.